Hi, my name's Kaz Riley, and this video is in celebration of International Women's Day 2021. And International Women's Day isn't about pushing men down, it's about lifting women upwards so that they have the same standing, the same opportunities, the same pay, the same rights across the board as men, regardless of where somebody lives, the culture that they come from, the race that they are, so that everybody has the same opportunities in life, regardless of their gender. And International Women's Day this year are having a theme of leadership. And I've asked 8 of the leaders of hypnosis, they're all female leaders in this case, to talk about the qualities that they feel a great leader needs to have, the women that they admire in the world, and why we still need to have an International Women's Day. Now, for me, one of the best qualities that a leader can have, one of the most necessary qualities, is the ability to lift people up so that they rise up, they take other people with them, they inspire other people to rise up with them. And certainly, all of these 8 women, I see them do that within the field of hypnosis, within our profession, every single day. They are all inspiring women that simply lift people up with them, so that everybody benefits from their leadership, their wisdom, and it also allows and inspires other people to become leaders themselves. So I truly hope that you enjoy this video, that you enjoy the wisdom that these amazing women share. There are so many other women that could have been in this video: Victoria Marie Gallagher, Melissa Tiers, Joanne Eady, Selena Valentine, Kate Bevan Marks, Sheila Zach, Maria Bird, Stephanie Conkle. You know, the list goes on and on and on. But here are 8 hypnotic women talking about leadership to celebrate International Women's Day. And I very much hope you enjoy it as much as I have making this video.
I'm Tracy Barrett Adams. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist based in Seattle, Washington, though I see clients around the world. I'm also a hypnosis educator, working also all around the world online, doing training and client work. And both my practice and my courses are all centered around my specialty areas of integrative medical hypnotherapy.
Hello, everyone, and a happy Women's International Day 2021. My name is Jaclyn Haley, and I'm a hypnotherapist based in Swansea in the UK. And I also run the UK Women in Hypnosis and NLP group. My areas that I niche in, or what you can call it a niche, my favourite areas to work in is with women's health, particularly in PMS, premenstrual syndrome, premenstrual dysphoric disorder, PMDD, which is the more aggressive kind of sister or cousin to PMS. And I especially love working with unexplained fertility.
Yes, I'm Freja Njorden. I'm a sex educator, and I work with couples and individuals to help them have better sex and better relating in general.
Hey everybody, I am Kathy Gruver. I am an award-winning author, an international motivational speaker, a life coach, and a hypnotherapist, and I am based out of Santa Barbara, California. I'm also a trapeze artist, which to me is the most fun thing I do.
I'm Lori Hammond, and my mission is to help others step into their greatness, to acknowledge the incredible, powerful person that is inside of them, and to do it before they feel ready.
Hi there, I'm Lindsay Eastburn. I'm a board-certified hypnotherapist. I have been helping women to get pregnant with hypnosis for the last 20 or so years. That's my specialty. I created a program called Fertility, which I have taught actually worldwide since 2003. I have a global clientele. I absolutely love what I do. I've been in the field of the healing arts for about 30 years.
Hi, I'm Kelley Woods. I'm up in Anacortes, Washington. I'm really happy to speak today on celebrating International Women's Day. Frankly, for me, every day is Women's Day because I'm obviously a woman, but also because I really celebrate being a woman and appreciating all the women who are in my life who influence me and support me each and every day.
Leadership is a fad. Wait, don't get upset. I'm spelling fad, P-H-A-D. And I'll explain if you'll give me a chance. I'm Karen Hand. I'm a board certified hypnotist, and my office is in Chicago, but I practice globally via Zoom, both sessions and training, because I'm passionate about what I do. That brings me to fad. Leadership requires, in my opinion, fad. P, passion. You have to be passionate about what you're doing in order to share it, to do it and give it your best. H is for hubris. You got to have the self-confidence to believe in your passion and then share it. A is very important. That's for action. You have to take action on your passion. You can't just sit back and hold it. You have to act on it. And D is for determination, because you have to be determined to make your passion work. Even if you make a mistake, even if you fall down once or twice, determination keeps your passion moving, keeps the action moving. So you have to have passion, hubris, action, and determination to be a great leader.
What are the qualities that I admire about a woman in the field of leadership? First of all, for me, would be somebody who was passionate about the cause, and somebody who had a clear vision of goal of where they wanted to move their passion and how they were going to get there. So great planning, great vision, great foresight, and great clarity. A team leader, to me, a great team leader also has to be confident. They have to be compassionate as well, particularly when they are moving towards their cause, because sometimes we find that when we have a belief in our heart that we are so passionate about, that we would like to change, we are met with opposition. So somebody who can stand their ground, have 100% belief in what it is that they want to do and achieve, and can quite easily, perhaps with practice, deflect the critics, and can still stand there in their own power and still continue with whatever it is that they are hoping to achieve, that they're moving towards to achieve. A team leader, to me, also has to be a great listener, and they have to be balanced, grounded, walk their talk, and somebody who's not frightened of change, in a way that if it isn't working for them, they are not frightened to say, this isn't working. Someone who commit their mistakes, and that they can pull that back and veer their goal and their passion and their outcome in a new direction in order to achieve what it is they set out to do.
So when I think about leadership for women and the roles that some of us have accepted or have even chosen, I think the truth is that we all have opportunities as women to be leaders in our own lives, in our own circles. And when I think about some of the characteristics, some of the traits of someone who is a great leader, who's successful at being a leader, however you define that, one of the top things that comes to mind is integrity, both personal and professional integrity. And I was a student of karate for 15 years. I got to the level of a second-degree black belt. That was an accomplishment that I'm really proud of. And during those 15 years, I was able to really cultivate many of my leadership skills within that community and within the challenges that I faced and met. And certainly personal integrity played a big role. Our sensei often challenged us to live in our private life as we did in our public life, to have those be consistent and congruent to the values that we were espousing, that we were claiming to be holding for ourselves. And that can be challenging. If a person notices that maybe they're behaving differently when no one's watching. And so that was one of the things that I really made a point of honoring. And I think that it has helped me be more authentic in my role as a leader. It certainly helped me in my personal life. So integrity is definitely a trait that I admire in leaders. And, you know, it doesn't mean that we have to be perfect, but it means being accountable and responsible for our actions. In fact, I remember reading some research about what makes a great leader as far as being able to admit their mistakes, being able to even preempt being found out about their mistakes. Because face it, we all make mistakes. Sometimes we have poor judgment. And to be forthright about that and to allow ourselves to be vulnerable makes us more human, and it makes us more relatable to people. And I'm a firm believer that everything comes down to relationships. It's the relationships that we forge on a public and on a personal level that really determine how effective we can be. So being able to have that degree of honesty and vulnerability can play a great role in that effective leadership while keeping balance. Many leaders are great for modeling, someone that you want to look up to and emulate. And so even if they're sharing some characteristics, some mistake that they made that maybe isn't up to your standard or their standard, we can just take the lessons from that. You know, from NLP, there is that frame that there is no failure, there's just feedback. And so when we can take whatever is meaningful from these kinds of experiences, we all grow, even if we're witnessing someone else doing it, because that's really a lot of how we learn how to do things, is watching how people do things, even if they screw up, even if they make mistakes repeatedly. We can learn from that. Maybe we learn what to avoid, for example.
To me, what makes a good leader? So to me, what makes a good leader is someone who empowers the people around them to stand on their own. A leader isn't someone that orders you around or tells you what to do, but actually empowers the people, gives them the knowledge, the freedom, the information so that they can grow and learn. It's a matter of lifting those people up with you, not pushing them down, not being overbearing. And on the flip side of that, a leader sometimes does have to take charge and make those tough decisions. A good leader is going to surround themselves with people who know more than them. They are not going to have that ego intact that makes them think that they know everything and don't need anybody else. So to me, that's what makes a good leader.
Okay, so what makes a good leader? Well, I'm going to say follow through. That is probably the most important thing is, you know, you find a need and fill it. So you find something that you want to do, whatever it might be, and then you set your intention to create that. And then it's a matter of going with the flow to an extent. So we have to definitely do some things, be self-motivated, you know, create some plans, but then at the same time be flexible, open and receptive, and kind of see what comes our way. So when I started working with hypnosis for fertility, it really started to show up for me. It started to come into my office. And at the time when I got started, nobody was doing it. No one was using, well, they may have been using hypnosis, but nobody was teaching anything. There was no material out about it. The medical community, the clients, the, you know, therapists, nobody was, you know, nobody had an awareness of that at that point. And so I looked at that and I said, yes. And then I began to do research. And as I said, yes, more and more people began to come in, and soon enough, I had a specialty. So I realized at some point that I could share this information, and that's part of being a leader as well, is sharing information, mentoring others, being open, being willing to, not be right about everything, being able and willing to consult other people. So that's what I would say is probably the most important, to being a leader. I mean, there's just so many things, but ultimately, really being authentic as well is so important, because then you can connect with others, then you can best help to guide them, and also be willing to learn from others, because we're never done. Life's a work in progress. And so just having that awareness and that willingness to, accept that and project that is really going to help in that realm of being a successful leader.
I think leaders are people who inspire others to follow them in some way or to be guided by them in some way. And I think that's what makes a good leader. It doesn't make them, or it makes them good at leading, but what makes them a good leader, is how positively they affect those who are following, because you can be good at leading and lead people into a darker path or into negative thought patterns. And I think a good leader inspires their followers. I don't like that word, but inspires their followers to be better people and to have better lives.
I think a good leader has a responsibility to lead with humility. If they are a good leader and they have a positive intention, I feel like it has to come with an element of vulnerability and a willingness to go first, to walk the path that they want the other person to follow them down. And that can be really scary, and it can be really humbling to admit the places that we've screwed up, and this is how we figured it out. And I know sometimes as a leader, I feel like I'm just a little tiny baby step in the direction of the person who is following me. And just to be able to inspire hope in them and to say, look, if I did it, you can do it. Just come up a little bit higher. I think that's what a good leader does.
What makes a great leader? What a great question. And I think this is such a great question because it really made me think about scale. My first impulse was to talk about success and what makes a successful, accomplished leader. And the more I thought about it, the more it became clear that the scale needs to start on the individual scale of being centered in one's own values. A leader that is a great leader needs to start with being a really good, solid leader in their own integrity, in their own value system, and have the conviction and the vision to act on those values, and be so aligned with these values, with this center of gravity, so to speak, and moving forward through obstacles in a way that helps others see that they too can move through obstacles. And I think that is a great leader, whether it is someone who is leading a whole group of people, a political movement, or a classroom full of kindergartners. That being a great leader starts with knowing who we are as a leader and taking responsibility for ourselves and helping others see their full potential.
Female leaders I admire. Wow, that's a tough one. It's interesting. I don't often think about leaders as this is a female leader, this is a male leader. I just think about people who inspire me and who lead. And, I look back to the suffragettes and these women who stepped out of their homes and fought so that we could vote. The women that have marched on Washington to make sure that our reproductive rights and our environmental rights are intact. The women who lead us in politics, whether it's Kamala Harris or AOC in the Senate, who, really fight for women's rights and who elevate us all up.
So if I had to choose a team leader that really inspires me, there were so many that come to mind, and I'm going to name a few. First was Rosa Parks, who was famous for the Montgomery boycotting bus incident in America through the civil rights movement. She knew what she wanted. She stood her ground. She wasn't frightened. She was all the things that I just mentioned, and she achieved what she set out to do. Aretha Franklin, probably the greatest soul singer that's ever lived in my time. She had many setbacks. She was a mum at the age of 14. She then went on to have another child at the age of 16. I know she went on to have 2 more, but you know, in the 60s, she rose to the top and quite quickly. And when things were modern music come in, she quickly stepped back, had a bit of a shuffle, and then moved more into the direction of soul. And she was probably the most famous soul singer up until she died 2 years ago. I really admire her. We also got Emmeline Parkhurst, is that Emmeline Parkhurst, who was part of the suffragettes. She went into politics at the age of 14, and she fought and fought and fought. And she won eventually the rights for women that they could vote, and for men under the age of 21, they had a right to vote as well. So all these are leaders that's impressed me over the last 100 years, but I wanted to bring it back into modern times, you know, back to the 21st century where we are right now, and a leader that inspires me at this moment, okay? Now, this lady that I've chosen to be my inspirational leader of International Women's Day 2021 is a lady who I've watched grow a business over the last few years. She's in the field of coaching and NLP, and she's a hypnotist as well, but she uses more the coaching and the NLP. This lady has recognized and niched down. She's really chunked down what it is that she wants to do. She's been clear. She has the vision. She has the foresight. She has the bravery and compassion to rein it in when things are perhaps not going the right way, you know. And more importantly, she listens and she's non-judgmental, and she is just full of love. She's an amazing lady, and this lady is called Sam Evans.
Some of the women I admire has to start with my mother. And my daughter, for that matter. My mother was so passionate about being a survivor. She created a life for herself that put her in a career back in the 1950s, when most women were housewives and stayed home with the kids. She had a career because she was passionate about surviving and was determined that she was never going to rely on anyone but herself. Now, she had my father's support her whole life, but she was determined to be her own survivor. That might have gotten passed down to me, and then to my daughter, who has been self-directed her entire life. She was so determined, she took a couple of jobs at big companies, but so determined to be self-directed that she got herself into a career where she sets her goals and she meets them in order to be successful. That's a wonderful thing. Outside of my family, lots of people I admire. Greta Thunberg comes to mind, that young woman who is so passionate about climate change that she traveled across the ocean. And it doesn't matter who tells her she's wrong. She is passionate and determined to save this planet. Amanda Gorman is another one. The poet from the inauguration. Oh, she had such beautiful, wise words to live by. I'm going to read it to make sure I have it right. Sometimes what just is isn't justice. Gives me chills. And there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it. Such truth there. Maya Angelou. I have so much admiration for her, and I live my life by something very important she said. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike. Michelle Obama, who said wonderfully, when they go low, I go high. Great words to live by, right? In my business of hypnosis, many women to admire. Melissa Tears, who may have saved my life, when she tipped me off that there's not just one way to do this thing. It's all made up, and we can all do it. Thank you, Melissa, for that. Selena Valentine, who was determined to have a hypnosis business, go big or go home, and she went big. She made a mistake or two along the way, and you know what? She corrected her mistakes and was determined to continue to take action on her passion, and she is still doing it. What a woman to admire. Now, there are many that I could mention in our business. Kelley Woods, Jess Marion, Sarah Carson, Connie Ray Andreas, and of course, Kaz Riley, all with something in common. passion, hubris, action, and determination. When you put those four things together, whatever you're passionate about, you can't fail. Be a leader. Put it together.
I'm going to say Joan Jett. She's a rock and roll girl. She's Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, and she's been around for decades. She originally started her band, the Runaways, all-girl band, when she was 15 years old, and that was back in the 70s, and she's a real groundbreaker. No one was, there weren't women rock and roll bands, and she wanted to do that, and there was just a lot of resistance, and she just had a lot of issues from the males, and it just wasn't appropriate. And that's what she wanted to do. That was her heart, that was her soul, and she did it. She just busted down, all sorts of walls, all sorts of issues, and she created that. And her band went on for a couple of years or so. And then when that was finished, when they broke up, eventually she was able to, because she knew that this was her heart and her soul, and she created another band. And she couldn't get a record label. They kept rejecting, but she didn't let that stop her. And she ended up starting her own label with someone that she met in the music industry. And they created records. They sold them out of the back of a van. And eventually, not too long after that, she had that platinum single, I Love Rock and Roll. It was a smash, an incredible success. And it's not really about her success as a musician so much as it is her persistence, her perseverance, her determination, her desire, her passion, her connection to what was, and is her dharma, her path. And she's a brilliant businesswoman. I mean, she's still here. She's still around all of these years. She's in her 60s by now. And she's still playing. Her concerts are incredible. She just really puts life and energy into that. She wants you to be there. She is there to be there with you. And they go out and they play for the troops, and she just does so much. So really, that is actually one of the female leaders that I admire most, all in all. And then I would also say Clarissa Pinkola Estes. She's fabulous as well, and she's a storyteller and a Jungian psychologist and a writer, and she leads workshops, and she has some incredible material. And she came up from a difficult, she's had learning disabilities and just all sorts of difficulties that she overcame from her childhood. And then she has just created absolute masterpieces in her work and in her writing and in her teaching and in her mentoring. And she's very much about the divine feminine. She very much holds the space for women. And so I would highly recommend her work. And I just can't say enough good things about Clarissa Pinkola Estes.
The female leaders I admire the most deeply are the female leaders who are in circumstances, cultures, situations that require them to stand alone first and to reject abuse, to reject bias, to reject oppression, and to stand up and find a voice in a culture or an environment where there is no room for it, to stand up and speak truth and to push back or to move forward is phenomenal courage and phenomenal leadership, because this makes way for everyone to come behind and to create real deep change. And so I think it's those unsung people that are making the biggest difference. And you see this in women, all kinds of women all over the world. And it comes in a lot of different forms. But that is the kind of the anonymous woman that we may not hear about, who household by household, kind of community by community, is leading.
So it really is what we're focusing on. And when we think about some of the great women leaders, there have been so many politically, there certainly are many great examples, but even culturally. And someone that I think of that I really admire, I always have, is Betty White, the comedian, actress. Betty White is incredible. She has so many credits to her name for her body of work that she has been doing for decades. And even though she is now in an advanced age, I'm not going to say her age, I don't think she really cares, and she tries to hide it, but she's certainly an older adult. She has no intention of retiring. How cool is that? That's something I kind of feel the same way. I love what I do with the same kind of passion that Betty White has. I don't really think about retiring. I want to keep serving in this manner. Now Betty models that kind of perseverance and strength in such a delightful, lighthearted, but also in a way that you take her seriously. This is a woman who knows who she is. She has opinions, but she's also kind of changed over the years, and she's been able to change what she believes in, going with, how culture has changed, or maybe her experiences have changed. And she just has that kind of energy and power that I like to emulate, because I agree with her that everything is better with a dollop of humor, and that when we can laugh, we can get through so many difficult times. So Betty White, you're my heroine, and I hope you live to make many, many more movies and TV episodes and commercials and all the wonderful things that you do.
So there's a woman named Fabian Frederickson, and she's the founder of boldheart.com. Formerly, it was clientattraction.com or something like that. And she is a magnificent business coach, starting off for female entrepreneurs, but she actually coaches everybody, but it's heart-based. And she was the first person that I had seen who was leading people. Well, she was teaching them how to make money, and she was coaching them, but she was doing it from her heart first. So it was like love was where it all started. And that resonated with me because so much of the coaching world and so much of the business world is very masculine. And you do need to tap into that energy. But I'm not a man, and I'm not gonna be like that. I'm never gonna be this like hard business person. I'm a soft, loving, caring. I want to hug my clients. I do hug my clients. I love them. And I love that it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to come from that loving space. So she is a magnificent woman, and I admire her tremendously.
So for me, I always think about Oprah just because she's one of those people that has stepped into her magnificence. She has moved past the barriers that keep many women, especially women of color, from making a difference in the world. And she's been such a beacon of light to me. But at the same time, there's something that almost feels unattainable about that. And a few years ago, Brene Brown came onto my radar. And I know she's aligned with Oprah a little bit. But I love Brene Brown because she has modeled vulnerability and humility so beautifully. And she lets people see her screw ups. She lets people see her mistakes, and she uses those to inspire others to greatness. She doesn't put on this front like she has already arrived. And one of the things that she talks about that helped me so much when I was deciding to be more public in the world, and I was deciding that I knew that I had to put myself out there if I wanted to attract people to me and to my business. And I thought, well, what about, I'm a person who likes validation. I like knowing that I'm doing a good job. And I thought there's going to be people that criticize me. There's going to be people that think that, say terrible things about me. How can I handle that? And she has a TED Talk. I think it might be called, It's Not the Critic That Counts. And she talks about how we can deal with criticism when it comes and how to consider the source. And how to couple that. For me, it's been finding this balance of accepting feedback and finding ways to grow, and at the same time having a sense of resilience and a sense of positivity in the face of criticism. And Brene Brown has modeled so much of that for me.
So International Women's Day, the reason for this conversation, is a time to celebrate women of all types, of all ages, all colors, all nationalities. And really, I like to do this not just once a year, but to really put myself in the mindset of thinking of us united collectively so that we're supporting each other, not dragging each other down. We are, it doesn't really matter what side of the political or religious spectrum a person is on, that we have this in common, the wonderful aspects of being a woman and all that encompasses. It's really exciting. It's powerful. And I think that whenever we have communities like the one that I have in my hypnosis field, where we support each other just because we're women with a common cause, well, that's a power that's almost palpable. It's something that you can draw on, and it provides you a kind of a support system within yourself. And I often, when I'm working with female clients, I'll ask them to draw from some place in their experience, maybe even in their heritage, for a resource that comes from women so that they can get in touch with it. And they find this to be really powerful. And maybe you're even thinking about that right now as I'm mentioning this idea to you. I have my own Finnish background. There's a Finnish word, sisu, S-I-S-U, and that is a national word for the Finns that is emblematic of their perseverance, their dogged determination, never to give up, to keep their country independent and free through any means possible. And I was raised with that. It was in my grandmother, it's my mother, and I have sisu, and my two daughters have sisu, and it is the representation within us of how strong we are. So I hope that you're finding something equally powerful that supports you, whether you're a woman viewing this or a man, certainly not exclusive to females. But for the women listening, I want to share a fantastic poem that has inspired myself and so many of my female clients. And this poem I discovered, maybe 10 years ago. It's written by a woman named Patricia Lynn Riley. And it goes like this. Imagine a woman who believes it is right and good. She's a woman. A woman who honors her experience and tells her stories, who refuses to carry the sins of others within her body and life. Imagine a woman who trusts and respects herself, a woman who listens to her needs and desires, who meets them with tenderness and grace. Imagine a woman who acknowledges the past's influence on the present, a woman who has walked through her past, who has healed into the present. Imagine a woman who authors her own life, a woman who exerts, initiates, and moves on her own behalf, who refuses to surrender except to her truest self and wisest voice. Imagine a woman who names her own gods, a woman who imagines the divine in her image and likeness, who designs a personal spirituality to inform her daily life. Imagine a woman in love with her own body, a woman who believes her body is enough just as it is, who celebrates its rhythms and cycles as an exquisite resource. Imagine a woman who honors the body of the goddess in her changing body, a woman who celebrates the accumulation of her years and her wisdom, who refuses to use her life energy disguising the changes in her body and life. Imagine a woman who values the women in her life, a woman who sits in circles of women, who is reminded of the truth about herself when she forgets. Imagine yourself as this woman.
Why do we need International Women's Day? This is such a great question. And I thought about this one a lot. And I think I was going to say, women know we can lead. We need this to make sure the men know we can lead. And then I realized that's actually not a true statement. I think there's so many young women who are in a part of the world, in a part of the country, in the society that are told still that they can't lead, that they can't have power positions, that they can't be in control, that they have to be submissive, that they have to be less than because they're a woman. And so I think we have to have International Women's Day to remind all of us that we have the power, the right, and the ability to lead. So I think that's why this is an important thing. It's reaching parts of the world that maybe don't have the same mentality as us here in the West, where we're making headway. It's still not perfect, but we're starting to make it happen, and we still have a ways to go. And I'm happy to be a female leader and to stand strongly with all the other female leaders that surround me.
Women's Day, International Women's Day, is so important to me. I used to work overseas a few years ago, and particularly in Cyprus. And back then, I wasn't allowed to address the men. And if there was an issue within the hotel that I was a team leader of, I wasn't allowed to talk to the men direct. I had to have a male with me. And I got into a situation where I was asked to apologize to a male for something that I didn't do. And he felt I should because I was a woman. And if I didn't apologize, I was going to lose my position in that hotel, not with the company, but with the hotel. And I refused. I stood my ground. It was something I really passionately believed in, and I stood my ground. So International Women's Day is really important to me because in a lot of cultures and a lot of countries across the world, women are still classed as second-class citizens. And for me personally, Women's International Day does bring a lot of awareness because it's global and it goes across the world, and particularly in those countries that those women are still seen today as second-class citizens. And as someone mentioned to me today as well, in the UK, it's still not equal footing between men and women. So every year I feel that we should be celebrating, we should be shouting from the rooftops, we should be full of appreciation and gratitude that we are women, and that we are women with a passion, women with a goal, women on a mission to ensure that across the globe, from here until eternity, women are seen as having equal rights.
Okay, so why do we need International Women's Day? Oh my gosh. Well, it's about time. Okay, we've had, and we all know it, we've had this patriarchy. A lot of our fields are, kind of regimented by that old energy. And we are creative, and we are intelligent, and we are passionate. And I really think we've been, kind of muted a lot. Really, that's how I would put it over the years, over decades, over centuries, but even recently. And, we talk about this equality, but ultimately we know that women are still taking on, the bulk of responsibility, especially in, families raising children. They may be working full time, but they're still, really taking more of the responsibility as far as the children go. And I know this just by when I hear this, and I'm sure you've heard this, well, my husband's babysitting. Never do we say that mom is babysitting. I never say that I'm babysitting my children. I never said that. Husbands don't say, oh, my wife's babysitting. It's just a non-issue. But whenever a woman is out and whatever she might be doing, she might be running a workshop or whatever it is. If anyone asks, it's, oh, my husband's babysitting, or we just think in terms of that naturally. So we're really busting that down in the collective. The divine feminine is rising. And I think it's just definitely time that we acknowledge our power even more, that we stand fully in our power and that we own our success. I just think this is a brilliant idea to have International Women's Day.
I think that it can be easy to forget that we still have a long way to go before being self-actualized. And having an International Women's Day reminds us to look at our role models and look at ourselves and think, I can do better. Not in a self-criticizing way, not like I suck, but yeah, really, I can up my vulnerability game and be a kinder, more loving person. And here's a role model showing me how to do it. I can work harder and put myself out there, even though it's scary to do so in whatever field. It doesn't matter if you're an athlete or a singer or somebody who has to make a presentation in the boardroom or a mom. You can put yourself out there and take a step by watching other women who've gone before you and done the scary things and risked it. We need our role models. And I think that we get caught up in the hustle and bustle of every day. And this is just a reminder. Throughout history, we have felt competitive with each other. And we've been put in positions where we feel like we have to compete for resources and compete with each other. And I don't think that's natural. Like, I think that our natural innate ways are to love and support and to work together as a community to uplift each other, because we're better for each other, we're better for ourselves, we're better for our families and our community. And we're stronger when we work together. So this is really, it's an important thing for us to lift that community.
Why do we need International Women's Day? Because in every corner and pocket of this world, women are abused, are oppressed, are harmed just for being women. And this day gives those people who might most typically be silenced an opportunity to be part of a chorus of voices that can express a vision for change, that can push back as a group and can push forward and be seen and heard more clearly and more loudly. And so in that way, we can all be leaders in this moment by joining and moving forward.
So I think an International Women's Day is important because it brings a sense of togetherness, a sense of community, and it helps us realize that we're all, it's like a sisterhood thing, gathering together of all these beautiful women and lifting one another up and empowering one another. And I actually didn't even know that the International Women's Day existed until I think last year is the first year it came on my radar. And I just think it's a beautiful chance for us all to come together and lift each other up and just acknowledge and support and cheerlead each other on. So I thought it would be really cool to lead everyone who's watching this video, all of the women around the world who are here to be empowered and supported and acknowledged. If you would just bring your hands to your heart with me right now. Just pretend that we're right here in the same room together. And I just invite you to close your eyes and just look inside and even just imagine that you are breathing through your heart. Imagine that you're bringing in light on the inhale, that you're exhaling light on the exhale. And I just invite you to imagine that you are standing here in this massive room full of women all around the world. Everyone who watches this video and any other women that just need to be lifted up and empowered, and that this is knitting our hearts together as we breathe in light collectively as one. And I want you to imagine that you could look in the eyes of a woman who needs a little bit of extra strength. Maybe this is someone you know or someone that you just imagine right now, and that you could just look in her eyes and just say, I see you. You can do this. And now I'd like you to imagine that every woman, myself included, is standing there in front of you right now, looking you in the eye, breathing love and light into your heart, and just looking at you and saying, I see you. I love you. You can do this. And notice as you just start to get a glimpse of the greatness that is in store for you, of your purpose in this world, of the difference that you are already making and are going to continue to make in the lives of so many people. As you even imagine yourself right now stepping into that greatness, stepping into that potential that has just been waiting for you. And as you go throughout the rest of the day, I invite you just to bring your awareness back to the breath anytime you need to feel that sense of love and support and community. And you can go ahead and relax your hands down and just tell yourself, thank you.
Wow. Just amazing to watch and inspiring to watch. And thank you to all of those amazing 8 women who have taken the time to share their thoughts, to put this video together with me. It just really shows that, you know, individually they're all magnificent, but when we all stand together, then that is really something. That is truly something amazing. And amazing things do happen when women help other women and men. But the power of International Women's Day is something that it's important, and it's a truly important message to get across. So, women of the world, here we are, and we see you.